after connecting with Michelle, I continued to watch her videos. I continued to do the work on myself. And that's what I was doing over those next couple of weeks. As all this was happening, I still knew that I needed to come up with about $10,000 and I needed to get caught up on my bills. I wanted to have a little bit of cushion, but I knew that I needed $10,000 to come in. I had no idea how it was going to come in. And I didn't want to get to the point of getting too behind on, my home, because that would be a whole other issue, right? And that was my main concern, was maintaining the payments for my home and my office. But the reality was that I was starting to get behind and it was becoming really overwhelming, and I was reaching out to different organizations to see if I could get some temporary relief, just to give myself a little bit of time and space to regroup. Sometimes it's really challenging when you're at a point of your business where you feel like you need to pivot, but how do you pivot when you have all these obligations and things that you have to be responsible for? And then just how do you also make sure that you are maintaining your self-care and your mental health? So trying to navigate through doing all these things at one time was really overwhelming. And because it was so overwhelming, it was like I had no other choice but to lean on God. I had to talk to him about that. I knew it wasn't something that I could do on my own, and it was something that I had been trying to do on my own, and it wasn't working. No matter what I did, nothing was working. I wasn't bringing on new clients, and I wasn't able to get any type of assistance or relief. And I also was not able to find a full-time 9 to 5 or part-time work. So I had put out all these applications and nothing was working out. So as all this is happening, I'm still feeling in my spirit like I'm meant to have this business. I am meant to do this work, but I'm also knowing that it's time to pivot. The work that I was doing these last 3 years is not what I wanted to continue doing. And I don't necessarily want to do the work. I don't necessarily want to do more work than I was doing before, but like make less money, right? I want to work less and make more money. And I think for some people, they look at that like that's not possible, or that's really hard to do, to work less and make more money. But I knew in my spirit that that was what I wanted and that was what I was going to have. And fast forward to maybe a week or two ago, or a week or two later, I should say. It was getting down to that last minute. I had got a notice for my home, and I just went into like panic mode. I was very scared. I was feeling anxious, all these emotions that I hadn't felt, especially considering I had been doing a lot of work on my spirit, and I was feeling really good. Probably the best that I've ever felt in terms of spiritually and emotionally, because I had really been putting in that work. So I, at this point, have gotten really heavy into reading tarot, watching tarot videos, all things metaphysical. I have crystals. I am into meditation. I'm learning about yoga and all these different things. And I received a message from a man, and he said hello. He was very nice, very respectful, and he simply said hello. I think he maybe, gave me a compliment or something like that, and I just responded with hello. And normally I wouldn't have responded, just off the simple fact that I could see his zodiac sign. I'm into astrology and numerology as well, and I just wouldn't have responded normally. And then I was also like in a relationship, and I wanted to respect and honor that. But something in my spirit told me to respond, and so I did. And he immediately asked if he could call me, and I'm like, well, that's odd. Like normally I don't get, someone asking me, can they call me immediately? And if I did, my answer would be no. But again, I felt in my spirit that I needed to say yes. And so I did, we connected, and we ended up getting on the phone and talking for a couple hours. And it was not about anything personal, nothing related to business. We did kind of share our stories with each other, but for the most part, it was really just him talking about God and sharing his testimony and saying things that were really confirming everything that had been going on in my life. And so, I had been sitting here for weeks trying to just be still and feeling like in my spirit, like everything was going to work out and God was going to send me a blessing. I didn't know from where. I had recently talked to some family and just different business connections, and no one was able to provide any insight. And I'm a business coach, and so I've got tons of resources, and just again, nothing was working out. But I also was feeling this whole time in my spirit that everything was going to be fine and that I just had to trust and lean on my faith, lean into God, and trust that He was going to work it out. I didn't have to know the details, I didn't have to know how. I just had to trust that and do my part in resting and being still and focusing on my mindset and healing my spirit and doing the internal work. And then also focusing more on Him and building my relationship with Him and being in consistent prayer and getting into the Word. And I also knew that I had friends and family that were praying for me like crazy. They were really, really praying for me, and I could feel it. I could feel it in my spirit that I was being prayed over and that everything was going to be okay. Now, of course, there's always that small voice in your head that says, you're not going to be okay. Like, what are you doing? Like, you need to get up and do something. And I just had to push that down, and I had to push through and again, lean on my faith. And that's something I've had to do quite often in my life, but never anything like this where like now I've got to, it's piling up and I have a lot of responsibilities, and I just physically, it was like, how am I going to make this happen? How is this possibly going to happen? And it was just constantly me coming back to, you can't make it happen. God is going to make it happen. And you don't have to know the how. You don't have to know the why. You just have to trust that He will and rest in that and find peace in that. And so as this man was talking to me, he was confirming all of these things and saying things to me that, only me and God would know. And it was just blowing my mind. And so, he tells me that he's writing a devotional, and we're talking about that. And he sent me the devotional, and it was amazing. It was the first time that I felt like someone was breaking down the Bible, that I had like connected with one-on-one to where I could understand it. And I'm just thinking like, wow, you need to have a Bible study or a church, or like, publish this devotional soon. And so we're talking about that, and he's just continuing to teach me different things, and it was amazing. It was such a blessing just to have this encounter with him and to have him being willing to share his energy and knowledge with me. And so we continued to talk about that. We read the word together. He sent me some videos to watch, and I did all that. And so that was the first day. And then the second day, we kind of repeated the cycle. And I had also been asking to see some red cardinals. I was trying to manifest red cardinals, and I was, asking God to show me red cardinals and let that be the confirmation that everything was going to be okay. And all of that was happening. I was seeing the red cardinals, and then people around me were also seeing red cardinals and confirming that to me. And so all throughout this month or two, I was constantly receiving confirmations like, you're going to be okay. Rest in this. You're going to be okay. Everything is going to work out. And I wasn't sharing the details with very many people as to what was going on. I was just keeping it to myself and kind of feeling like there wasn't going to be anyone that could help me anyway, but also like really wanting to see and being curious about, okay, these are God's promises. Like, is He going to come through? Kind of like me testing God, right? Or God saying, test me if you want to, and I'm going to show you what I can do. And so that's what ended up happening. And so as I went into day 2 with this man, his name was Eric, the same things were happening. Like he was confirming things. We were having conversation about God and the Bible. And, you know, one of the things that he had said to me was, Bianca, you're so focused on the why. You're so focused on the logical side of things, but that's not what God is about. God wants you to trust in him, and faith is about having not even an understanding. It's just trusting in the unknown, trusting in things that you can't see, believing in things that you can't see. And I believed that this was a true test of my faith. And I sat down and I was like, he's right. Like, I always want to know the why. I love to study and research things. And when it comes to God, that just isn't the way that he operates. He's not always going to tell you why. He's not always going to show you the whole path ahead. You have to have that faith and trust in him. And for me, that was always scary. And I don't trust easily. And so to put that type of faith into someone or something that I can't see, that had always honestly been a challenge for me. And, you know, when all these logical things are starting to make sense to me, that's what I have been leaning on. And so I had come to this moment of him sitting down and talking to me and sharing his testimony and talking about forgiveness. And his story was very similar to mine. And I was just blown away that he was willing to share such intimate personal details with me in regards to what he had been through. And then thinking to myself, like, my testimony, my story is powerful. And I've been through a lot. But for someone like him to go through the things that he went through that were way more traumatic than what I went through, and to come out of it the way he did and to have so much love and faith for God was amazing. And it really kind of shifted my mindset in that moment. And so from there, he asked me a question. He said, are you going to be willing to make a decision? And I was like, what are you talking about? And he's like, you're at a point where you're going to have to make a decision. And this decision that you're going to make is going to impact the rest of your life. And he asked me, you know, if you have two roads, are you going to go down this road where you kind of know what you're seeing ahead, but you don't know what is behind it, right? But God is telling you to go this way. Or are you going to go down this road where you can see it all, right? Like it's all on you. It's up to you, and you can go down that road, but God is not down that way. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, like what? And I had to think about it, and you know, it was about obedience. Obedience was another thing that I had been receiving downloads on a lot recently, and just kind of seeing them everywhere and different things I was listening to or seeing, and the importance of being obedient in whatever it is that God is telling you to do and walking in his will. And in that moment, I'm like, this is an angel. This is an angel that has come to talk to me and deliver God's message to me. And I have to really make a decision. I felt it in my spirit that I had to make that decision, and that it really was going to impact the rest of my life. And it's kind of like, okay, you've been doing things a certain way for a really long time and it's not working. And it's just what's comfortable, but it's not working for you. And I said, okay, I'm ready to make a decision. And I knew in my spirit that I was going to have to let everything go. Let everything go that I knew, that felt comfortable, that felt safe, but it was not serving me anymore. And even if I didn't understand it, even if I didn't fully agree with it, I needed to let it go, because this is what God was telling me to do. I knew it in my spirit. I felt it in my spirit, and I knew that's what I had to do. So I walk into the house and I gathered up all my books and my crystals and my tarot cards. And I was like, I've got to let him go. And I've got to stop watching the videos I watch and just doing all the things that I've been doing. And it doesn't make sense to me, but this is what I have to do because this is what the angel is telling me and a message that I believe is being delivered from God. And so as I made that decision consciously, right? And it was also kind of like I felt like when I talk about my spirit, it's also like my subconscious beliefs, right? And so I'm like, all right, I've got to let this go. I put everything into a bag and he tells me to burn them. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, do I really have to do this? And we continued to talk and I get a phone call and I ignored the phone call because I'm having this amazing like spiritual conversation talking about God, right? And I ignored the phone call and then I got another call and then I checked the message and I was kind of confused about what it was. And so I returned the phone call and I had previously spoken to this person maybe like a day or two before and then a couple days before that, and they knew my situation and they were calling me telling me that they wanted to bless me with almost the full $10,000 that I needed. And I'm just like, what? And I knew in that moment that this was all God. And that was what this was all about. This was all about a test of my faith. Was I willing to trust God and that He was going to provide? And was I going to be obedient? And once I had done that, look at how things shifted. Look at how quickly it shifted in a matter of minutes. And then when I think about what happened the day before and the days before that, I had spoken to them and they were aware of my situation and had already told me that there was nothing that they could do, right? In terms of financial support and help. And it was almost like God had gone into them and moved things around and he was then speaking through them to me, right? And ordering their steps to help me. And I had also found out the day before that they were going through things, significant things as well, to where I definitely was like, okay, they're definitely not going to be able to help. And so just to receive this call and to know that he had put this on their spirit to help me was an incredible blessing. And I manifested what I had prayed for, right? And I trusted that God was going to provide. And this was ultimately, I knew a story that I had to share because this was not me. This absolutely was not me. This literally came from him. And that was a blessing. And I'm just so blown away at being here to share such an incredible story with you.